Hey, what's up, guys? Once again, going over the hard luck Italians. This time, the Italian Army elite units. Now we all know the Italians were the underdogs in World War II. They just, Mussolini took a gamble. Germany was doing good. He knew they weren't ready, but he took a gamble and didn't work out. um, but the Italians, they did get better as time went on. It's just that by the time they really started to get more experience and to match their courage, which was no one could question the courage of these men, even with these lousy weapons. For the most part, the war was already over, at least for half of Italy. Okay, and the ones who were loyal and the Italian Social Republic kept the fight going, but obviously, at the same time, Italy was not such an easy nut to crack when they eventually invaded it. Okay, because of the terrain. They didn't take the rest of Italy till the very last days of the war, but a lot of these guys were fighting on, and some of them had enough, and some of them were fighting for the Allies. I don't like to think about those guys, but anyway, let's go through. Just the nice. The art is great. The photos great. A lot of interesting things you learned here. I learned. I mean, I didn't know about this. Of course, we start with the armored motorized divisions, particularly the Arietis, right? The Ram division and the Trieste division. Uh, but you never forget, there's the M11, no M1340, already obsolete. These guys, these guys never did not go forward into battle. Um, you know, yeah, they knew they had no chance, and they still went at it. And sometimes they would actually win. But also, you can't forget with the armored divisions, you had your light infantry, your motorized infantry, support for both divisions. You had the Bersagliaries, okay, with those cockerel, those silly looking feathers. But these guys were pretty tough. Of course, they were motorized. They had motorcycles to keep up with the armor. Remember, your tanks need infantry. Your infantry need tanks. Okay, you can't isolate one and the other. Right? I'm going through the structure, how it went. Of course, eventually they've had some good, particularly like this example here when you had this. What is it? The British 22nd Brigade. That was a pretty good fight. Uh, they were inexperienced, and the Arietis gave them a really bloody nose. It was over time. Eventually, they're just getting ground down. You start to see the numbers decrease for both divisions of how many tanks they have, armored cars and whatnot, and it all sort of ends at El Alamein when the Ariete is decimated. Not all of them were decimated. Some of them got away. Um, and of course, we got the Trieste division was the other one. Of course, then you got the interesting, the Giovanni Fascisti, right? The young fascists, right? I guess not really black shirts yet. Uh, these they were pretty tough. These kids were pretty tough fighters, man. Look, you got the old Aditi thing with the knife in the skull, the grinning skull. I mean, these guys fought, especially when General Messe came back after Rommel was gone, when these guys were just abandoned literally again. These guys fought hard to the end. Um, you should read about that. The final battles in, I think, in Tunisia was left, but eventually, right, they lost 60% of their total strength. And these guys got decimated, but they had guts, man. These guys were outnumbered, with shitty weapons. Now we get into the parachute divisions. Of course, you're gonna think the parachute division, the Folgers, right? The Thunderbolt division paratroopers. These guys are legends for good reason. It's cool. They got the it's cool. The Guastatore, right? The assault engineers. You had separate assault engineers, and then you had paratrooper assault engineers. And here's interesting. The samurai vests, right? They're kind of like the I think like the Mali system of the past, right? Where you have these samurai vests where you can have the pouches, or you can have like what this guy has, where you get all these cool Beretta submachine gun clips in front of you. Now, of course, the famous Fulgors did some notable engagements here. Right? They never got to be paratroopers. They never supposed to go to Malta. They never did that invasion, and they ended up here fighting. And they were already on the ground. They never parachuted once into combat. But these guys were probably the best trained, most motivated guys in the whole Italian army, and you can see that. Right? They were fighting the New Zealanders. The battle, they lost 200 men, but they captured one of the brigadiers. Okay, they fought the British again, and like for 45 Italians, they lost 45 Italians in the one battle and killed 400 British soldiers. Right? And they had interesting, very simple tactics. Right? They would have simple dugouts in the desert. They let the enemy go by where they wouldn't see them, and then they would jump out and counterattack immediately with throwing grenades and Molotov cocktails, where they would stop armored assaults, right? Cause heavy losses. I mean, it doesn't get more bare bones than that. Of course, El Alamein, the famous battle here, where they destroyed, I think, like a bunch of tanks, like 34 or something, armored vehicles. They stopped the Free French. They caused havoc. Right, and they lost 22 tanks here. You had other battles here, but it was hard luck, hard fought, and eventually it was finally given the order to withdraw. Right, they had no more to transport. These were what I'm saying. The guys left behind by Rommel. Right. They marched 93 miles in the desert. Mother, you believe this? And eventually, the guys that were left got caught. I think a couple of these guys got away, but legends, right? And of course, and then you have, it's interesting here, the Guastatori, right? Combat engineers, right? Engineer demolishers. I like that. And it's interesting. The Italian army had never had any kind of thing like this. They actually had they sort of had the theory of assault engineers. And it's interesting too. The groups, the 36-man unit was divided into the destruction group had 12 men. Okay, 4-man Bangalore torpedoes. You know the Bangalore torpedoes, right? You've seen that in the Longest Day. 4-man demolition charge sections plus 2 flamethrower operators in support. Right. Then you had the support group with 6 guys, 3-man light machine gun section, and a 3-man 45mm mortar group laying fire support, laying smoke screens. So it's interesting how they had set it up, right? And of course, the theory of how the battle was supposed to go. The demolition section approached the enemy, put by flamethrowers, right? They placed their charges. Of course, the support group was firing from long range to help them. They didn't really have a lot of firepower, though, right? In terms of facing armor or infantry. Right? And the 45mm mortar, right, was hardly adequate, right? These guys didn't even have rifles, you know. Of course, just the famous Beretta light machine gun was not the most reliable weapon. There's the 45mm mortar shooting 1-pound grenades. Typically, supposedly it was very accurate, but those grenades weren't apparently like super effective or lethal. It seems to be a problem they always had. It was like almost like flashbang grenades or something. Yeah, but they trained the hell out of these dudes, and in North Africa, these guys acquitted themselves as well as they could, particularly at the Al Alamein battle with them with the Fulgors. Fought pretty well. Okay? Although there's one time where some of them got caught out in the open by armored cars, and it was half of them got whacked. But still, they kept fighting, like I said, to the very end of North Africa. And then, of course, you had the ones on the Eastern Front, the Don River battles. Oh my God, Operation Little Saturn. Right? They lost a lot of guys here, and of course they were involved. If you know anything about that, they were part of the famous column that attacked and seized this town here, Nikolaevka, right? Which allowed their comrades to withdraw, but a lot of these guys died. Using the weapons, these weapons they have here to fight friggin' like Soviet T-34s and tanks in the friggin' in sub-zero temperatures. Poor bastards. Yeah. And the other guys, particularly who are in Russia, the Alpinis, the other elite guys, all from northern Italy, obviously the Alp regions on the Eastern Front. They came in just as the battle was really heating up there at the Don River, which of course is the Stalingrad area. It was interesting how they realized they needed increased firepower. These guys have no firepower, man. They have no heavy weapons. Yeah. At least they're not Romanians. They didn't have anything. So they made their heavy weapons was just adding the 81mm mortars, 247mm anti-tank guns, and a machine gun squad. Those heavy squads actually were the guys who seemed to fight their way out the best because they had the weaponry to do it. But like I said, the Alpine Division, it was right. They pushed back a bunch of Red Army assaults. Right? Even the probing assaults, but even when things got really massive Red Army attacks occurred, the Alpinis, they held. These guys friggin' held. I don't know how they did it. Yeah. And eventually, right, they did. If you read the book about the Alpinis too, a lot of them did not like the Germans. But they were happy the Germans were there because they knew they were, great soldiers. But the Alpinis, in my opinion, with no heavy weapons, makeshift weapons, stopping armored attacks and losing like 60 guys in 2 days, doing bayonet charges and chasing Red Army guys out of fortified positions. The balls, the guts these guys had, and most of them that didn't get away, they got captured, and most of them died in captivity. Very nice. Yeah. And it's amazing what prisoners you can. Anyway, I don't want to get started. I don't know why I'm thinking about that. The side that loses, if their prisoners die, that's what's important. Not when the other prisoners die. Anyway, there's no those battles. These battles are long over, long gone. But yeah, it was just an interesting book. They have some of the black shirts, the amphibious black shirt units and the armored units. They never really saw too much action. Of course, most of the black shirts when the armistice happened, most of them, including the Eastern Front vets, they joined the Germans. So, and it was another great Osprey book. So, give the Italians some credit.